Hi all, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts to the series of interviews with the authors of the Siege of Terra novels. If you haven't watched these, then I thoroughly recommend them as, well, they're very interesting to hear the authors' opinions and viewpoints from the heresy as a whole to what it means to them to be reaching the siege finally after all these years. It's great to hear their passion for something that we the fanbase share. I'll put a link to the Siege of Terra website in the description so you can check it out for yourself. I'm going to do this as one video rather than breaking down each interview to its own upload because they were all asked the same kind of questions, so a lot of the answers were very similar. So I'll focus on the points that I found the most interesting, and while I enjoyed it very much, I still came out on the other side with one little concern. But with that said, let's jump straight in. Okay, so first up, the first overriding theme, the authors working together as a group. So they were asked the question straight up, what was it like working together? And the general vibe from them all is that they all really enjoyed it. Liking any creative process, they all seem to be infused by the shared experience of bouncing ideas off each other. Gav mentioned the bonds formed between the writers and really enjoying being inspired by the others and hopefully inspiring them back. Really enjoying that whole creative process. And this sentiment was echoed in all of the interviews. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, of course. They were working there on a very important topic, of course, so there were some heated disagreements and arguments at some points. Guy Haley mentioned one meeting that was particularly heated, but that's what happens when you are passionate about something. So for me, it's great to see that those kind of things actually do happen, because that shows the passion these writers have. And as a fan, that's something that we should be very pleasing to all of us. The people we have delivering this conclusion, this ultimate moment to us, are just as passionate as us the fans, and that's something that I'm sure we can all appreciate. ADB mentioned all the authors left their egos at the door, which is another nice thing to hear, because look, all authors must be incredibly proud of their own work. I mean, I'm proud of mine, and I've never had a novel published. So when you've done that and seen it on bestseller lists, that must be something amazing to be proud of, and rightly so. So for them to appreciate what this Siege of Terra means to the universe, to the fan base, checking their egos at the door to ensure they're delivering the right thing, I can appreciate that as a lot as a fan. But as much as we the fans love the lore and the books, it's great to see the people who help to bring us these stories being able to enjoy the process themselves. You know, these authors have enjoyed working on this as much as we the fans enjoy reading it. So that's something that I think we should appreciate. These guys are enjoying delivering this content to us. Okay, second, the appreciation for the Siege of Terra. It's echoed several times throughout the interviews about what a massive event this is. This is the battle that essentially decides the fate of the galaxy, the fate of mankind. This is the culmination of the entire series. Everything has been leading up to this moment. This sets the foundation for the entire 40k universe as we know it. And it really leaps out at you that the authors understand the magnitude of this event. Dan Abnett mentions how they had to digest all the already established lore from every source they could and pulled it all together to have an enormous compendium of sorts of research. He actually mentions he didn't know if that will ever be released, but GW, if you're listening, I think lots of us fans would love to see that. A huge compendium of all of the Horus Heresy knowledge that they managed to compile together. But they used all this to get a concrete map of everything that happened in the heresy. Not just about the siege, about everything. So when they're relating to characters or relating to previous events, they are trying their best to make sure it is as accurate as possible. You know, their attention to detail is really spot on here. Even using information from future-based series such as The Rise of the Beast to ensure there's no conflict with what they've written about maybe Terra or a Primarch in the future. Really appreciating their attention to detail here. They even drew maps of Terra, maps of the palace, even the solar system, to make sure that everything they're writing is making absolute sense. John French stated that a map has literally been one of the fundamental pieces of each novel. And as the siege is taking place on Earth, they were able to actually use a year planner to plan and track where the forces would be and when on every given day of the year, what they would be doing. So they are showing, complete and utter dedication. I mean, I would never have thought of using an actual year planner, but wow, that's really good. They're really inspiring me almost as authors to read this content, which of course I would do anyway. But even if I wasn't, knowing that an author is putting that attention to detail into the content they are trying to deliver to a fan base, that's got to endear you to them quite a lot. Thirdly, the tragedy of the heresy. There's a lot of time spent on the tragedy of the heresy, and it's eye-opening to hear the author's views on this. Obviously, there's lots of mentions around the cost of human lives and the millions of lives lost. But look, we want to know about the Primarchs and the Emperor. That's the real crux of the storyline, and they talk about that too. For me, Gav had the best quote around this when he said, "The ideals of the Emperor, right or wrong, being lost. And not being lost for any particularly grand reason, but by the failings of humanity and the humanity he put into his sons." That's the core of the story. Mankind was its own worst enemy. Now, I was stoked to hear that. As long-time followers will know, I'm very interested in the human relationships and the human qualities of the Primarchs, of the Emperor. So to see that viewpoint from one of the writers, that really ticked a big box for me. And they also reflect on the sense of inevitability of it all. How we know the action some characters are going to take. Horus is going to try and kill the Emperor. Sanguinius is going to try and confront his brother aboard the Vengeful Spirit. And how this all lends to the tragedy, because we can feel the choice each of the characters are making in relation to where they are going. And they could have chosen a different way with just a little bit more understanding. Dan had a great line of, "The only victory that can be achieved and snatched from chaos is very hollow." Because we know the 40k timeline to come, and it's awful to live in. Essentially, it's just sustaining something that is broken. So yeah, as much as this is going to be a great read, we have all been looking forward to, it's going to be a very emotional one too. Okay, Primarch snippets. Well, we weren't treated to too much spoilerific information on the Primarchs, but Chris Raitt gave us a little bit about the Khan and how he feels this is really the White Scars and the Khan's time to shine. That the Khan's destiny was always to be on Terra. So, oh yes, I'm really looking forward to seeing the Khan rhino surfing into the traitors, laying waste to his fallen brothers. If anyone has read the previous two Scars Horus Heresy novels, you will know that Chris really delivered when it comes to the Khan and the White Scars. So if he's amped up saying he feels this is their moment, oh man, I believe we're really in for a treat when it comes to that novel with the Khan. And Guy Haley briefly speaks about how Sanguinius is determined to go through with sacrificing himself, as he knows it's the only way the Imperium will get the victory. But he is still very much on his journey in this process. I'm really looking forward to reading about Sanguinius during the siege. And then also he mentioned Perturabo, a little surprise, who is now well and truly on the path to chaos, despite his resisting it before, feeling like he could master it. But as we know, it's always chaos who masters you. And finally, the big one, the Emperor. This is where the Emperor's dream truly dies in many ways. It began with Magnus ruining the Webway project, but here, leaving the Emperor imprisoned upon the Golden Throne, this is where it dies, at least for the next 10,000 years. And I have to be honest, this is also my biggest area of worry and concern. I still have nagging feelings of some kind of plot twist or surprise regarding the Emperor's story. The authors have mentioned several times throughout these interviews about how there's room for surprises and twists between the vagues of the established lore. And look, I get that. I even think that will make for great reading. But I just have this nagging sense that we're trying to throw too much shade on the Emperor, and how perhaps maybe Horus was right. Dan mentioned how now the dream has come apart, it's being held up to more scrutiny, and the Emperor's dream was not all wonderful. And that idea beginning to surface more and more, not to undermine him but to offer a counterpoint, that the idea he is this infallible being is not always the case. But to me, the lore was always at its best with the Emperor being this shining point of the Imperium. I know 40k is the grim dark. I've grown up with 40k as the grim dark. But that was the point. The Emperor was the one shining light against the overwhelming darkness of this grim dark. He is the paragon of mankind. He has sacrificed himself upon the golden throne, fighting for the good of mankind for over 10,000 years. To try and darken his character, that really doesn't work for me. Show he is human, yes, but not infallible. Yeah, okay, I can accept that too, to an extent. But there is a worry about going too far for me. The pact with chaos idea I already really dislike, but I have hope. John French states, underneath everything, the Emperor is human, and all of his flaws are very, very human. He uses the example of a popular question he gets is, why didn't the Emperor not trust all his sons with more information about chaos? Why does he share more with others and not some? And the answer is because he's human. It's a human mistake to make errors of trust and judgment. And I very much like that viewpoint. Yes, the Emperor should be human. However, that really conflicts against the very unhuman writing of the Emperor we've got. Particularly at times, for example, in the Master of Mankind novel. Now, the novel had some amazing moments, amazing Custodes fighting scenes, and the scene with the Emperor going to war, it just gives me goosebumps thinking about it, let alone reading it. But that book really took a lot of the humanity out of the Emperor. But I guess that can also be seen as the beauty of having several different writers throughout the series. You get several different viewpoints. We've seen a very human Emperor at times and a very non-human one at times. And as I always say, the great thing about the lore is we all interpret it very differently. Okay, so my expectations. So overall, guys, I really recommend listening to these interviews. The authors are truly doing their best to give us an epic ending to the Horus Heresy series as possible. And no matter the result and the outcome, we as fans should be really thankful and pleased with the effort that they are putting in for us, the fan base. Yes, look, I have a few worries about the portrayal of the Emperor, but hey, I've had that since the start of the heresy. But I am in no doubt we are going to be given an amazing series to end the Horus Heresy. And personally, I am very, very thankful to all the authors for really putting their all into making this the best possible send-off it can be for us. You know, I can't wait to read some of this epic Primarch action that we've got coming up. And some of these little extra surprises, I have no doubt we are going to see some Primarch action that has never been established in the lore before that took place at the Siege of Terra. We know Vulcan is there right now, and we never knew that before, so some of these surprises are going to be absolutely amazing, no doubt. Do not get me wrong on that point. I really can't wait to read this series. And I think a special word of thanks also has to be said to the editorial team as well, because they play a huge part in the whole process as well, and all the plaudits always goes to the authors, and rightly so, because obviously they are the ones writing these words for us. But the editorial team, you need a good shout out to, so big thank you to you. But that's it for me today, guys. What did you think about the interviews? What are your thoughts or hopes and fears for the ending of the heresy? Drop a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. As always, massive thank you to all of my subscribers for your support. It really means a lot to me. And if you're new, then please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. If you've enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you guys again real soon.